The turkey was dry, but the timing was perfect. "So Alexandra," my mother began with that familiar condescending smile, passing the cranberry sauce that probably cost less than my watch strap, "still running that little shop downtown?" My siblings snickered around the Christmas dinner table. The little shop, they mocked, was actually the public entrance to my corporate headquarters, 40 stories of prime real estate housing one of the largest private companies in the world. His mom. "Still running the shop. You know," my sister Jennifer chimed in, adjusting her fake designer scarf, "the mall is hiring store managers. At least that's a real job." I suppressed a smile, remembering the meeting last week where my board approved the acquisition of that very mall chain, along with about 300 others across the country. "Speaking of real jobs," my brother David added, "my investment firm just had its best quarter ever. We're talking serious money here, sis. Not like what do you even sell in that place?" "Odds and ends," I said quietly, checking my watch, "a subtle Patek Philippe worth more than their house. Consulting services, mostly." "Consulting?" My father scoffed, carving more dry turkey. "That's not a real business. Now David here, he understands big business. Tell her about that deal you just closed, son." David puffed up like a peacock. "Just arranged financing for a major tech acquisition. $12 billion. Not that you'd understand numbers that big, Alex." I did understand, actually. I was on the other side of that deal, though he didn't know it yet. 12 billion. My mother's eyes widened. "Now that's real success. Not like..." She gestured vaguely at me, "whatever this is." I glanced at my phone, my real phone, not the decoy one they saw me use. The message from my CEO glowed. "Markets closed. Announcement ready. Press conference in 5. Did you at least dress that shop window for Christmas?" Jennifer asked, picking at her food. "The last time I drove past, it looked so shabby." The shabby window display cost more than her annual salary. The tacky Christmas decorations were designed by the same firm that did the White House holiday decor. "You know," my father leaned forward, wine sloshing in his glass, "it's not too late to join the family business. We could always use someone to handle the filing." The family business was a small real estate firm that, unknown to them, I'd quietly acquired through shell companies last month. The audit results sitting in my private office would make for interesting reading at tomorrow's board meeting. "I'm fine where I am, Dad." "Fine?" Jennifer snorted. "You call that fine? Living in that tiny apartment, driving that old Honda, running a shop that probably doesn't even break even." The tiny apartment was the entrance to my 5-story penthouse. The old Honda was a one-of-a-kind prototype their CEO had personally delivered after I acquired controlling interest in their autonomous vehicle division. "Speaking of business," David interrupted, checking his phone, "did you hear about Morgan Enterprises? They're announcing some huge deal tonight. Something about becoming the biggest private company in history." "Must be nice," my mother sighed. "Their CEO is some genius billionaire. Nobody even knows who runs it, complete mystery." I checked my watch again. 2 minutes. "Alexandra wouldn't understand," David smirked. "She probably thinks $1 billion is just a really big number in her shop's cash register." The TV in the corner, tuned to CNBC for David's benefit, suddenly switched to breaking news. My corporate logo filled the screen. "We interrupt regular programming for a special announcement from Morgan Enterprises." Every phone at the table buzzed simultaneously with news alerts. I watched their faces as they read. "Breaking. Morgan Enterprises reveals mystery CEO. Global markets stunned by historic merger. Wall Street's biggest secret about to be revealed." "Must be exciting," Jennifer said dismissively, "for people who actually understand business." The TV showed the familiar press room at my headquarters. The room fell silent as a figure walked onto the stage. A figure wearing the exact same outfit I was wearing now. The sound of shattering glass pierced the silence. David had dropped his wine. "Good evening," my image said on screen. "I'm Alexandra Morgan, CEO of Morgan Enterprises. And we've just become the largest private company in world history." The turkey got cold as my family stared at me, then at the TV, then back at me in stunned silence. Jennifer's fork clattered against her plate, cranberry sauce forgotten. That's impossible," David stammered, his carefully cultivated Wall Street swagger evaporating. "You run a shop. A small shop." On the screen my press conference continued. Morgan Enterprises' latest acquisition brings our total market value to over $300 billion, my recorded self announced. Our holdings now include major stakes in technology, retail, real estate, and financial services across 6 continents. 300 billion, my father whispered, his face ashen. But your shop is the public entrance to Morgan Enterprises' global headquarters, I said calmly, dabbing my lips with a napkin. The shabby storefront Jennifer loves to mock? Custom designed by the same architect who does the Louvre's exhibitions. Cost more than your house. My mother's hands shook as she reached for her wine glass. Your apartment opens into my penthouse. 5 stories, private elevator, rooftop helipad. I smiled slightly. That sad little building you pitted me for living in? I own the entire block. David was frantically scrolling through his phone, his face getting paler by the second. The tech acquisition I just arranged, the $12 billion deal, was with one of my subsidiary companies. I finished for him. Your firm didn't even realize you were negotiating with Morgan Enterprises. Though I have to say your presentation was amusing. Especially the part where you claimed to understand the tech sector. But you drive a Honda. Jennifer blurted out, her designer scarf. Actually a knockoff, though she didn't know I could tell. Ask you. That Honda is a prototype, I said, taking a sip of water. The only one in existence. Their CEO gave it to me after I bought controlling interest in their autonomous vehicle division. Would you prefer I arrived in the Rolls? Or maybe the custom Bentley? My phone lit up with messages from around the world. Madam CEO, Chinese markets opening in 30. White House requesting urgent call. UK Prime Minister would like to discuss. Warren Buffett asking for dinner meeting. Those estimates, David said weakly, staring at his banking app, about Morgan Enterprises' value, are low, I nodded. They don't include the private holdings, or the cryptocurrency portfolios, or the offshore investments. Speaking of which, I pulled up a document on my phone. Let's talk about your investment firm's recent activities. David's face went from pale to gray. What do you mean? The illegal trades, the insider dealing, the client funds being redirected to personal accounts. I scrolled through the report. Did you really think you could hide money movements that large from someone who owns half the banking system? Jennifer tried to rally. This is ridiculous. You can't possibly own the fashion brand you're wearing? The store you bought that fake scarf from? The magazine you posed for last month claiming to be a successful entrepreneur? I raised an eyebrow. Actually, I do. Along with the private investigator firm that's been documenting your creative accounting at your successful interior design business. Through the dining room windows, I could see news vans beginning to arrive. Someone must have leaked my location. But why? My mother finally managed. Why pretend to be nothing? Nothing. I smiled coldly. Like when you told me I was nothing at last year's Christmas dinner. Or when Jennifer said I'd never amount to anything at her wedding. Or when David suggested I apply to be his secretary because that's all I was qualified for. My phone buzzed again, more breaking news alerts. Morgan Enterprises CEO revealed. Wall Street's best kept secret. Alexandra Morgan, the hidden billionaire. World's youngest female CEO controls global empire. The TV was now showing footage of my corporate headquarters, the gleaming tower downtown that my family had mocked as that sad building where Alexandra pretends to work. Every time you laughed at my little shop, I continued, I was closing another billion-dollar deal. While you were bragging about David's big success in finance, I was buying the banks he worked with. When Jennifer mocked my shabby storefront, I was acquiring the luxury brands she pretends to afford. My father found his voice. But the family business is now owned by Morgan Enterprises, I said quietly. Has been for months. Those new clients you were so proud of, my companies, the sudden surge in profits, my investments, the audit that's scheduled for next week. I smiled. Pie team. David's phone was buzzing constantly now. Probably his bosses realizing they'd been negotiating against their own major shareholder. The firm, my position, exists because I allow it to, I finished. Though after reviewing your trading records that might change. The SEC is particularly interested in some of your recent transactions. Jennifer was frantically Googling on her phone. Your net worth. These numbers can't be right. They're low, I repeated. The public estimates don't include everything. Like the fact that I own this house. You what? My mother gasped. I bought it last month. Through a shell company, of course. Along with the country club you love so much, the restaurants you brag about getting reservations at, and the luxury stores where you buy your knockoffs. Through the windows I could see more news vans arriving. My security team's black SUVs were already moving into position, forming a protective perimeter around the house. But all your clothes. Jennifer gestured weakly at my simple outfit. They're so basic. This basic outfit? I touched my sleeve. Custom Chanel. The designer named the collection after me. These cheap shoes? Handmade in Milan. The tacky jewelry you mocked earlier? Worth more than your supposed art collection, which, by the way, consists mainly of well-done forgeries. Did the dealer not tell you I own the authentication firm? My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from my chief of security. Federal agents arriving in 5 minutes. Ready to proceed. I looked at my family's shocked faces and typed back, yes. Begin Operation Clean House. You see, I continued, standing up from the table, while you were all busy mocking my pathetic life, I was building something real. Something legitimate. Unlike your fraudulent businesses, insider trading and tax evasion schemes. Tax what? My father sputtered. Oh, did you think I didn't know? I pulled out a thick folder. About the offshore accounts. The fake charitable donations. The shell companies. I own the banks you used, Dad. Every transaction, every transfer, every dirty deal. It all crossed my desk. The sound of helicopters overhead punctuated my words, news choppers, trying to get footage of the unfolding drama. Through the windows I could see camera flashes as reporters gathered on the lawn. But here's what happens now, I said, pulling out 5 envelopes and placing them on the dinner table next to the forgotten turkey. Inside each envelope is your future. Your only options, actually. Options, my mother whispered, her perfectly manicured hands trembling. Option 1. Sign the enclosed documents. They detail your full cooperation with federal investigations into your various creative business practices. Return all fraudulent gains. Accept positions in one of my smaller companies, starting at entry level naturally. With strict oversight. Entry level? Jennifer screeched. I'm a CEO. You're unemployed, I corrected. Your design firm is a shell company I created to monitor your activities. It doesn't actually exist beyond paper. Those celebrity clients you bragged about. All employees of my entertainment division, instructed to document your fraud. David was frantically trying to access his banking apps. My accounts, they're all frozen. Of course they are, I said calmly. Did you think I'd let you transfer funds after this revelation? Every account, every asset, every penny you all have is now under Morgan Enterprises' control. Pending federal investigation, naturally. And option 2? My father asked, his voice barely audible. Is simple. Face federal prosecution without my intervention. The evidence goes to the SEC, FBI, and IRS unchanged. Your choice. Through the dining room windows I could see black SUVs arriving, government vehicles this time. The agents would wait for my signal. You have until midnight to decide. I stood up, smoothing my custom Chanel dress. Choose wisely. Wait, my mother called out desperately. The house, our homes. Were all purchased with fraudulent funds, I finished. They'll be seized, of course. But Morgan Enterprises maintains corporate housing for employees in transition. Small apartments but clean and safe. The kind of places you mocked me for living in. My security team was moving into position, clearing a path through the growing crowd outside. News crews were setting up live shots, their cameras trained on our front door. One last thing, I added, reaching into my bag. I pulled out a final document thicker than the others and placed it on the table. What's this? Jennifer asked, mascara running down her cheeks. A list of every innocent employee at your companies, from the cleaning staff to middle management. Their jobs are protected. Their pensions secured. Their futures guaranteed. I straightened my jacket. Because that's what real leaders do. They protect people even from their own family's greed. The TV was now showing live footage of our house, helicopters circling overhead, reporters speculating about the drama unfolding inside. My phone buzzed with international market alerts. Asian markets surge on Morgan News. European exchanges opening early to handle volume. Wall Street braces for historic trading day. You know what the funny thing is? I said, gathering my things. All those years you called me nothing, I was building something real. Something legitimate. While you were showing off borrowed money and bragging about fake success, I was creating actual value. Real jobs. True innovation. David was still staring at his frozen accounts. Everything. It's all gone. Not gone, I corrected. Just frozen until the federal investigation determines what was legally earned versus fraudulently obtained. Though given what my forensic accounting team has found, I wouldn't be too optimistic. My chief of security appeared at my elbow. Ms. Morgan, the federal agents are ready. And the president is holding on line 1. I looked at my family one last time, these people who had spent years telling me I was nothing, mocking my little shop, pitying my sad life. Merry Christmas, I said softly. The federal agents will be in shortly to discuss your options. I'd choose carefully if I were you. Prison isn't as comfortable as the life you're used to. As I walked toward the door, my security team falling into formation around me, I heard my mother's voice, small and broken, "Alexandra, please." I paused, hand on the doorknob. You know, Mom, you always said I needed to think bigger. I guess I finally took your advice. The cameras flashed as I emerged from the house, reporters shouting questions, the world eager to meet the woman who had built an empire in secret. Behind me, through the windows, I could see my family staring at their envelopes, their perfect Christmas dinner ruined by the weight of their own choices. Tomorrow the world would wake up to a new financial order. Morgan Enterprises would reshape industries, transform markets, redefine success. But tonight was about justice. Sweet, cold, perfectly calculated justice. And I hadn't even touched my turkey.